The national focus is on the town of Vieux-Fort, where a debate rages on the proposed DSH project, which involves about 700 acres of land in the southern town. Concerned citizens hosted a public meeting last night to expose the dangers in the proposed framework agreement. We will hear from one of the chief opponents to the agreement, Attorney Richard Frederick. The British government has confirmed its support for efforts to train frontline persons who interact with victims of rape, domestic violence and child abuse. And students in the Castries Basin walk for health in anticipation of sports competitions. This is the CTV News Special. I am Natalie Jolie-Fanis presenting. Our lead story comes from the southern town of Vieux-Fort, where there is a growing anxiety about a proposed project which will involve huge chunks of land in the south. It is called the DSH Project, and it involves, in the first phase, the construction of a horse race track. But it has attracted controversy throughout the agreement, which opponents find unfair. In addition, it also impacts the Citizenship by Investment program, which many believe has been amended to cater to the developers from China. The leading voice opposing the proposed agreement is former UWP parliamentarian Attorney Richard Frederick. The leading voice opposing the proposed agreement is former UWP parliamentarian Attorney Richard Frederick. First, he started by explaining that he was not against development for the south of the island, but had major issues with the proposed agreement for development.
And it might surprise you for me to tell you that I am not against this development. I am against the development in its current form. That's what I'm against. That's what I'm against. You know, because if it was fair and equitable, if we would reap the benefits without having to shoulder all the responsibilities for failure, I would not be here. I would be too happy to know that we have a $3 billion project coming on stream. But no, this country of ours, where our debt to GDP is almost at 95%, where every dollar we make, we owe 95 cents on the dollar or thereabout. We are about embarking upon a project that might sink us financially and take us to the jaws of the IMF. To that, we must together say no. And that's why I'm here.
Mr. Frederick says he got involved against his former party because he believes the deal will land St. Lucia into deep financial trouble and possibly the IMF.
And I have no personal interest in this. I don't. I have no political interest. I have no personal interest. There is nothing I need that the Almighty God has not blessed me with. All I ask Him for a bit longer life to ensure that the injustices St. Lucia receives at the hands of unscrupulous politicians, those injustices are stopped. And I will play my part.
Mr. Frederick linked this proposed development with what is termed the Black Bay Project, initiated by a previous UWP administration, which ended up with the succeeding SLP government having to pay one developer $52 million, and with St. Lucians whose lands were acquired yet to be compensated. Mr. Frederick, who was involved then as a minister, said he sees frightening similarities.
I see the same players, the same men who caused me and my senior staff to be dragged to cabinet at 7 o'clock in the morning to be handed down instructions that would end up costing the country $100 million. This time, I see $500 to $600 million going down the drain if we are not careful. You know, and when I first brought out the agreement, moi-même c'est wa avec go l'église n'a joué un document koye. When I first brought out the agreement, ça y mettait dans c'est pas ça aussi. Bradley Felix, no, we amended the agreement. All sorts of excuses were given. All sorts of excuses were given. But you cannot tell me that an agreement that is so heavily loaded against this country of ours Because you were not born here, you believe you could sell our country under all of us? No, man. No. You know, I'm getting emotional, eh? I am getting emotional because this is serious stuff.
In addressing the salient points of the framework agreement, Mr. Frederick noted the developer was under no obligation to put any money upfront for the land to be acquired or used for development.
And so it says, the land required for the first parcel shall be transferred. Hear this well, eh? We transfer it. And it goes on to say, payment shall. Payment for that land shall be in arrears after the land is developed. You understand that? You understand that? It means if the man wants hair, we take it, we shall give it to him, and he will pay us. If it takes him 20 years to develop it, that's when he'll pay us. If he decides not to lease. Because once the land is transferred, the option is his to either lease or buy. It is his option. I don't know which jackass developer, you get in land an acre, $1 an acre for 99 years. She said, well, I paid for the whole 99 years. One time, look your $99, sodla. So with $99, they have deprived about 10 generations of this country of the use of an acre of land. You know, 100 acres would be 100 times $100, $1,000. Tibai $1,000,000. I pay you for your 100 acres for the next 99 years. You think if land belonged to Michael and Alan Chasney, he would have done that with it? Folks, this is touching, and this transcends all political barriers you can find. Yellow, blue, green, and even those to come and those gone. This is not about politics. This is about saving our country.
He went on to note that under the framework agreement, the government has to secure titles to private lands to be acquired.
So government comes in, they take your house and land, they transfer it to the master developer, who has to pay in arrears after he develop it. But meantime, you have to be compensated. You know, you have to be compensated. So government now must find money to compensate persons, you know, and our passport money going overseas, you know, I'll talk about that in a while. Gosh. We don't even have the passport money to push our hand in it. You know, this is madness. So government acquires your land, transfers it to the master developer. The master developer says, I'll pay you. It's either I lease it from you. If I lease it from you and the land is about an acre, well, look, your $100 for the 99 years. Government has a bill of $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, depending on the size of the house. You know, folks, madness, 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 madness. Then
Mr. Frederick also spoke of the Citizenship by Investment program. In light of the expose on CBS's 60 Minutes, the focus was on Dominica's program, but St. Lucia's CIP was also mentioned.
I don't know how many of you all watched CBS 60 Minutes on the 1st of January, 1st or 2nd, where St. Lucia was mentioned. And as long as you are mentioned in CBS, the award-winning documentary, CIA, FBI, all of them looking at you. Because right now, Dominica, everybody that comes from Dominica is being watched. Diplomatic passports finding themselves in the hands of the biggest wanted criminals in the world. You know? Now, when you tell me you are selling passports, essentially, it's a necessary evil. Because the whole aim of the program was to assist your country with revenue you cannot otherwise generate. In St. Kitts, they use the money to build roads. They use it to build schools. They have scholarships. Recently, they gave civil servants double pay for Christmas. They gave them a bonus, double pay for Christmas. Then teachers, they have now, not teachers, nurses, they have now institutionalized paying nurses overtime. All of that money came from CIP. Okay? Mr. Brown in Antigua, in that interview, he said, boy, I can't sit back, I need the money. And thank God for the CIP, we are current with all our loans. But Shaste signs a document, take all the CIP money, put it in an account overseas to which we have no access, and the only person with access is the developer.
Mr. Frederick then went on to read excerpts of the framework agreement, which details the proposed arrangement.
Hear this: the master developer shall open a new bank account in his own name with a duly licensed international banking institution outside of St. Lucia, and shall designate such bank account as the escrow account. The monies received, that's 7.1, the monies received for investment of the project shall be deposited into that account and used to do the development. Folks, this is serious business. This Chinaman has not one penny. We are taking land and give to him. We are giving him passports to sell. Use the money as you please to develop our land. But what is even worse? What is even worse is the buyback clause.
He says the buyback clause also puts St. Lucia at a major disadvantage, as the island will have to find monies to get out of the deal should the developer no longer wish to continue with it. If the developer sells less than 200 passports, he can invoke the buyback clause.
We must take lands and give to him, private lands. He'll develop the land. We have to compensate the landowners, because obviously landowner will not wait until master developer develops the land. But that's when master developer says he's paid. His payment shall be in arrears. Shall. Once government get the buyback notice, after 2 years, let us say he sell 195 passports. That's what he see. He can give notice to say, I'm ending the agreement. Now, all the infrastructure he would have put on the land, all the infrastructure he would have built within that 2-year period, notwithstanding it was built with our passport money, we have to compensate him every penny of the infrastructure that he has built. Of course. He takes our land, he takes our passport, sells the passport, gets the money to develop the land, but he has not sold enough passports, so we now, not only are we left with a white elephant and have to compensate all landowners, we now have to compensate him for what he has built with our passport money. Okay? And it even gives us time. Any purchase of or any part of the land by government pursuant to the buyback clause shall be completed within 90 days of the buyback notice.
In other news, the Vieux-Fort Concerned Citizens for Change group has been circulating a petition in support of its calls for the Prime Minister to renegotiate the DSH deal. A few of the residents spoke at the Townhall meeting on Wednesday, among them musician Monty Maxwell, who lamented the proposed plan to allocate recreational areas for the DSH project.
Why is it that the best recreational spaces in St. Lucia have to be sold or given to so-called developers? Why we can't enjoy it ourselves? This is my problem. Are thoroughbred horses more important than St. Lucians?
Mr. Maxwell suggested government focus instead of the development of the Vieux-Fort port as a cruise ship facility.
Folks, we have the largest sheltered harbor in St. Lucia. It stretches from us, based on which we call Point, which is Point Matiwen, to Ansnois in Labrie. We can take 3 mega ships in that harbor. Build us some cruise ship ports. Castries become totally dysfunctional when you have 4 cruise ships in the harbor. Why you want to have 4 cruise ships in Castries? People can't walk the streets. They're robbing them. Taxis can't move the truck. Why you want to do that? Come down to Vieux-Fort. Come and build us some ships, some piers in Vieux-Fort and so on. So I'm not against, developing whatever, but it has to be done right, folks.
Also speaking at the Town Hall meeting in Vieux-Fort was author Dr. Anderson Reynolds. He has been a member of the Southern Tourism Development Committee. He commented on a proposed buffer around the DSH project, in particular, the horse race track. He questioned the rationale for this.
Because if you create a buffer, that means other St. Lucians will not be able to situate close enough to the development that's taking place to benefit. But this is not what you want in development. If you're giving up your resources, your passports, and so forth, for development to take place, what you want is for local entrepreneurs to feed off that development. But apparently, the way that whole thing is set up, it seems like that will be excluded. Of course, this is just my analysis.
Dr. Reynolds highlighted a number of proposed development plans for Vieux-Fort and noted the one common aspect of most of them involved the construction of a marina in the south. He says the Southern Tourism Development Committee has been discussing this for some time now.
It has been a year or two that STDC was advocating and I'm really pushing for a marina in Vieux-Fort, which just says that we were definitely not opposed to development. Actually, it was our mandate to seek development for Vieux-Fort. And the marina was one of the activities we pushed forward, so much so that we worked with, we engaged Bob Hathaway, a yacht builder and a marina developer, and he presented a marina development plan for us. He didn't only present designs, he presented costs. So essentially, based on the costs, he estimated that a 200-berth marina will cost around $20 million. But as you can see, part of the marina complex would include a boatyard, shopping mall like restaurants, convention center, and a lot of other. And this cost only, the basic marina infrastructure would have cost $20 million. But here is my point. If I didn't realize the way CIP works. I thought the way CIP works, somebody has a pocket full of money, they have an investment project, they come and invest and establish the project, and then they receive our citizenship. But if it is that the developer sells our passport, then use that money to do the investment, but why do we need a developer? So we push hard for marina, so it seems to me 20 passports, $1 million each, could have been sold to build a marina.
There was also a question and answer period at the Town Hall meeting in Vieux-Fort. Among the questions posed to Attorney Richard Frederick was one seeking to determine whether there was any real chance of the citizens stopping the DSH project.
From your vantage point, what is it we can do as St. Lucians, as Vieux-Fortians, to stop that project?
That's a very good question and something I was asked. Yes indeed. Yes indeed. Yes indeed. Very, very good question, and it is one I was expecting. Let me just say this. Under our law, Under our law, you cannot injunct the crown. In other words, you cannot stop the crown. The most you can do is to ask the court for a declaration that probably the Prime Minister signed something that was probably illegal, whatever, but the court cannot say, government, you have to stop this. This is the ideal situation where you, the bosses of the politicians, because you employ them, you put them there, you have to use whatever means to control them. And they have to be controlled because they cannot be controlled by the courts. The voice of the people is the voice of God.
Can Parliament create some kind of injunction to force the government? Because Alan Shastley, this is not a dictatorship. Alan Shastley is not the government.
Well,
there is a parliament.
You can pat yourself on the back for that question. Very good question. What can Parliament do? Let me just say this and I'll give you an example. Anything that does not find itself within the purview of Parliament, Parliament can't do anything about it. One of the examples is when the CIP regulations were passed. When that piece of legislation was passed, it gave the minister, described as the Prime Minister, the authority to amend the regulations. And now he has amended the regulations, reducing the value of 3 million to 100,000 by a stroke of a pen. He has removed the obligation for that person to go and swear to an affidavit at some kind of St. Lucian establishment where the consulate or embassy, he has removed that by the stroke of a pen. So all of those things are gone, and they are gone because the primary legislation gives him that authority. But I am hoping that as time goes by, there is need for the citizenry to take action to be able to stop the crown, especially in cases of such a nature.